What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and yeah, that was a thing. Not gonna lie, I if this were a regular season game, I'd probably be like throwing stuff, all the stuff back there that the workout thing, would be out the window right now. I'd be just throwing everything because that was embarrassing. But because it's preseason, I'm frustrated, obviously, about certain things, but I can't feel like, oh, our season is done. Because, yeah, it's preseason. There are things that do need to be fixed before the regular season starts. I will first talk about, I did see part of the Nashville game. I got to watch, like, the first half. And I thought about, watching the rest of it because I did see that the live stream was up on Facebook and I could watch the whole thing. But the problem with it was I didn't feel like I needed to because I did see the two goals that we scored in the second half. But I just thought about it and like doing a review on that just wouldn't really feel right because it's on a baseball field and it was raining, the field wasn't good enough, and so I didn't feel like I could properly judge what I saw in the first half and even from the two goals. I didn't feel like it was a proper representation of our play. But this one I feel like is a bit more of a representation of where we are in this preseason. So first of all, let's talk about the lineup. So no Parkhurst, no Vialba, no Garza, and I think Escobar's still out as well. So we're missing quite a few players that probably would play into it. And so because of that, no Vialba, which means Gressel is playing up there. That's a problem. No Parkhurst in the back, which means Jeff has to drop in. That's a problem. No Garza, which means Ambrose plays over there. Not normally a bad option, but wasn't good today, and I'll talk about that later. And then no Escobar, which means Ziso still plays. All of these are issues. They're players that would not normally be playing, and I have to look at that and say, okay, so recognize the problem, recognize that they would not normally be in there, and kind of look past that. But with that being said, I still judge based on performances and what I saw. So, yeah, let's talk about individual performances. Guzan today, not good enough, in my opinion. Last season was tearing it up, playing really well. Today, didn't look like he was communicating at all with his back line. Didn't really, made a few saves, but nothing really fantastic. The guy, the second goal, the guy had, like, the entire goal to aim for. They were talking about, oh, lobbed it over, what a great goal. I'm looking at it. Guzan was nearly at the top of the box when he took the shot. And it was like, here's the guy, here's the goal, and here's Guzan. It's like, you don't even have to lob him. It's just pretty much you're taking a shot at a wide open net. And all he had to do was not miss. So, it just, too many mistakes today. And on all three of the goals, obviously the third one was an own goal, so not really expecting it. But the first one, I thought his angle looked off. Second one, angle was definitely off. So it just hasn't really started to the same level that he was last year, which is kind of concerning. Ziso at the right back, he's decent defensively, but on the attack is where we suffer. And it makes it even worse that he's playing on the same side as Gressel because, that's two players that lose the ball a ton whenever they're on it. So yeah, biggest problem with him today wasn't his defensive work. It was just on the ball, gave it away too much. His passes weren't good enough. And coming out of the back, as a fullback especially, because our fullbacks generally will get up in the attack and help out, they've got to be better passes. You can't keep giving the ball away as a fullback. So that is an issue from him. Laurentowicz in the middle, Jeff, fine overall, just not the same that I'm expecting, but part of that is because he's not a center back. And I talked about this last season. Whenever he was dropped back there, his game was hindered a little bit because he's still a decent player, but a lot of what he does is winning challenges in the midfield before the ball gets to him. If you put him in the back, now they're winning it in the midfield because he's not in there, and then they're running at him, and he's just not as good whenever he's under that kind of situation. So his best position is definitely that center defensive mid role, which means we need to get Michael back. Either that or we need to have another center back step in, which we don't really have one right now. So it's kind of a problem. But yeah, so I'm looking at it, and I feel like he's got to be in the midfield to be more effective. And on top of that, he's a leader back there. And it shows today when Perez just loses the ball time and time again. Defensively, not good enough. Caught out of position several times. On the second goal, on the first goal, he loses it way too easily. Just passes it right to the guy's foot, gives it away. And then the second one, not tracking his man, that's when the guy gets behind and then has an easy shot afterwards. So he was awful today, Perez. And I do think part of that is because Michael's not in the back. He tends to be the leader back there. He tends to be the one doing his job very well, covering for Perez if he ever makes a mistake. And on top of that, Jeff will sometimes drop in the back to help out as well. So it's almost like that three tend to work out better. But when you take Michael out of that and you drop Jeff deeper, now all of a sudden he's got to be doing Michael's job, and it's just not the same. He's not that type of player. So our defense was all over the place today, and the 3 goals we conceded was proof of that. Mikey on the left side, he had a couple moments later on in the game when he started growing into the match. I felt like he started showing some of the quality I saw last season, but definitely started off the game pretty poor. His passes weren't really connecting. He wasn't doing a good job of working with Barco on the left side. And then defensively, it felt like he just wasn't really keeping pace with some of the guys up top. So, I don't know. Maybe it's because he's still sort of getting back up to the pace of things. But I was pretty disappointed based on what I saw from him last season. Into the midfield, Chris McCann and Darlington Nagbe were the two in there. Chris, he's not one of the best players, but he is a player that works hard, and he showed that today. His passes were pretty good at times, and then sometimes were just not good enough. But he did work hard overall today, and I was impressed with how much he put pressure on them in the midfield. When they dropped him to left back, wasn't as good. I don't think that's his best position. I think, honestly, he's better either on the left wing or, in the midfield he looked okay. I just don't think he's got the same sort of sense in the midfield that he does when he's playing left wing. Because he works hard at left wing, tries to win the ball back, and does a good job of quick interchanges. But when you drop him to the midfield, the quick interchanges aren't as there. There's not as many people around him. And then his working to win the ball back is still there. It's just there are more options for players whenever he's in the middle of the field. So his pressure at times can just be sort of running at the guy, and then he gets passed around, and then he's beat. For Nagbe, though, I saw a bit of him in the first game and was impressed with what I saw. Honestly, today, he was the only one that consistently, I thought, impressed throughout the game. He did drop off a little bit later, but it looked like he was just getting tired. But, good pressure in the midfield. His passes looked pretty good today. He's linking up with some of the, linking up with the fullbacks, trying to find balls through if he can. And, it will hopefully get better, but it looked okay. And then on top of that, just the ball retention in the midfield is key. It's so, so vital for us to have somebody in there who's going to win the ball but keep hold of it as well. And I feel like if you pair him with Jeff in the midfield, you've got one player that's so good at winning the ball back, and then he can lay it off to Nagbe, who do a great job of picking out a pass, holding up possession, maybe dribbling into a bit of space so we can make runs for him. So I just feel like that pairing is going to work so well when we finally get to utilize it. But until Michael gets back, obviously we can't. The front three and behind Martinez was Barco on the left, Almiron in the middle, and then Gressel on the right. Barco, he has moments here and there, but overall he's not quite the player that I think everybody's expecting him to be yet. I think he does have the ability to be there, but overall the biggest problem I'm seeing from him is just not enough strength on the ball. You watch Miguel. One of the things he does very well is whenever he comes under the challenge, he either puts himself in a position to be fouled or he does a good job of using sort of his low center of gravity and turning them quickly. With Barco, he's just not strong enough. And so whenever the challenge comes in, he goes over way too easily, and it's not enough for the referee to give a foul. And that's a problem. He's never going to be able to hold on to the ball for very long if he goes over so easily every time. So the one thing that he does have going for him, though, that I think will hopefully help him improve his game a bit more is he has a very good sense of when he's got space to turn and run. That's one of the things he did very well coming off from the wings. He gets into a bit of space. He does have a quick little turn and cut, and he does have the acceleration to get past the defender. But what I do see a lot of is when you see a player like that, you see a player who's just going to try to turn and cut you and then just get past you with speed. A lot of the times defenders can figure that out pretty fast and know to put themselves in position to either win the ball away or just put their body in between you and the ball and win it. So he's got to find a time to cut and go back in, and also a time to just take it down the line and try to go in on the touch line and try to force a corner or a foul out of it. So it's just got to be a little bit more variety from him, but I do see the potential there. But today was definitely not what we were expecting whenever we bought him for a record, what was it, $15 million, I think. Miguel in the middle, he had a few moments here and there. He was definitely the hardest worker out of the front four. But in my opinion, just the quality around him has to improve a bit more, because when he's looking for runs, he's making some good passes. It's not coming off, and it makes him look not as good. So I do see what he's trying to do. I see the ideas. I see the hard work in there. It's just Joseph wasn't on top of his game. Barco wasn't really doing well. Gressel is Gressel. And so he didn't really have a lot of help up there. And so that's when he looks a lot more of an average player. But when he has the help up there, when people do give him options, he can be easily one of the best players in MLS. So I think going forward, obviously Gressel hopefully will not be a part of the team much longer. I have to hope, after today's game. But looking forward, I think if Barco can step up his game, once Tito comes back, maybe if we get somebody else that can play at the right wing, and Joseph's got to step up his game as well, I think you get that front four really starting to flow. Miguel can easily just find space, find time, find good passes. But today, it was hard for him. It was difficult, and he didn't really do very well overall. Gressel on the right, I've already bashed him a few times here. But yeah, I get so frustrated watching him, because it's like he got the Rookie of the Year last season, and it's almost like watching him today, it's like that just went to his head. And he just feels like he's the best player in the league, and, he's too casual on the ball, he's too just, trying to play these really complicated balls, and then they don't come off, we lose possession. They're trying to play him in behind, he doesn't have the speed to get there. It's just all around, he doesn't provide anything for us. There's nothing in his game where I'm just like, yes, that's why he's in there. Occasionally he'll have like a good pass or two, but we've got other players that can do that. Andrew Carlton comes off the bench and instantly plays like 3 balls that Gressel was trying to play throughout the game and maybe tried 20 times and it worked once. Carlton comes on, tries 3 times, works I think 2 out of the 3 times. There's the difference. And that's why I'm like, why is he still out there? Don't get me wrong, I get why he was Rookie of the Year last year, because he was the only one involved as much as he was. Most of the other rookies are kind of bit part players. He actually did get time, and he was involved in a lot of the setup because, he has players like Almiron to work off of. Tito was doing a good job of helping him as well. He had players around him that set him up for good finishes and also were there whenever he cut the ball back after making runs out wide. So I see why he won the award, and I see why he played a part in the team last year. But this year, I feel like we've got some better players in. We can cut out that sort of the player that has moments here and there, but overall is so inconsistent that there's no point for him to be in. That's Gressel. He's so inconsistent. His passes most of the time are terrible. He dribbled out of bounds like 2 or 3 times in the first half alone. Why is he still in? And based on this performance, they should look at the tapes. They should look back and say, all right, let's watch this and see he doesn't provide you anything. He's hurting you whenever he's on the field. His play is too slow. Pass, Gressel, touch, and give the ball away. That's how it works most of the time. So, I realize Villalba's still out, but you've got players that can play there. You can put Carlton there. You can put Brandon there. You can put, you can put Kevin up top in the middle and move Miguel out there. You can do anything. He needs to be like the next to last option. The last option is just you cut the team entirely. You just say, all right, we're canceling Atlanta United. And then the option before that is you try Gressel at the right wing if nothing else works. And then Joseph up top, in my opinion, kind of similar to the end of the season last season, where he has a few moments where he's almost there, and then his attitude just sort of gets in his way. And then he just sort of turns off and he's moping a lot. In my opinion, watching some of these players, I mean, Julian was doing it too. Another player, Perez, was doing it quite a bit too. We just have a few of these players where their mental state is what gets in the way of their game. And Joseph is probably the prime example of all of them. You know, all of the players on the field, some of them, Perez's thing is yelling at the referees whenever something goes against him. Gressel's thing is he gives the ball away and then sort of turns off for a second and then, oh yeah, I got to play. But Joseph is like, it's like if the ball is not the ball he wants, he doesn't try for it. I have a problem with that. Because the way I've played in the past is you make the pass look good, even if it's not. So they try something, you change your run. You try to work to make it better. That's why I get so frustrated watching like Josie Altidore and Jordan Morris for our national team, because everybody, oh, they're so good, they're so good, they're so good. Yeah, if the ball is played to them. If it's not, they don't really do anything about it. They're kind of like, oh, come on, find my feet, and they turn off, and then the defense is like, all right, let's just play around in the back because their striker's not going to do anything about it. That's how I feel about Joseph sometimes. If the ball is not near him, it's like he doesn't want to work for it. And I have a problem with that. It was a little bit better than the end of last season. The end of last season was just downright terrible. Like, he got so emotional and just tuned out of games sometimes. It was better today than last season, but there are still a lot of problems. There's still a lot of, why not make the run? Why not try to put pressure on that defender? Why not, change your run because it wasn't quite right? So, yeah, I'm still kind of frustrated with him overall, but I do see the parts of his game that are getting better and are improving. So I'm hoping we can continue to cultivate that side of it, because we do need a striker like that up there because he can finish. Unfortunately, he never really got the chance to today. Then talking about the subs that came on, the first two were Olivier Shannon. Olivier? I don't remember how they pronounced it. But it was one of our draft picks. He came in at defensive mid, which pushed McCann out because he took Mikey off. And then Kevin came on for Ziso, which pushed Julian back to right back, which I was shocked we only gave up one goal with him at right back. But anyway, but I think that ended up pushing... Honestly, I couldn't really tell. I think it was almost like Kevin and Miguel were sort of like switch. I think Barco actually moved out to the right, and then maybe Kevin was in the middle. And I don't know. It kind of got a little bit mixed up whenever he made those two changes. And then he brought on, I think he brought on two at the end. Yeah. But he brought on Andrew Carlton for Barco, and then brought on Brandon Vasquez for Nagby. So, bringing on them, just kind of a chance for them to get a little bit of a run out. I was disappointed that he waited to bring on Carlton and Brandon until like the last 6 minutes, because that's not really much time to get a little bit of a run out. I would prefer to see more like 15 minutes if possible. But as far as their performances, Kevin, probably the one I noticed the most out of the four that came on, just because he was out there the most. But yeah, he works. He always does work hard in there. The one problem I was having from him today, though, it was just the fact that the final pass in the final third, it felt like it was always off. It wasn't quite the run people were making. It felt like there was a little bit of a disconnect between him and the front line. Shannon at defensive mid, didn't really notice him, to be honest. It just kind of felt like he was there, but I don't know. I never really saw him go into a challenge. He did, but I don't remember it. I don't remember being like, yes, that is why we need him in there, defensive mid. So I don't know. He just kind of like, he was there. He was in his position, but it never really felt like he was doing anything about it. Carlton came off and played well, in my opinion. He only had a few minutes to do anything about it, but he was full of energy. He was making passes. He's trying to link up the play, set up one of the better chances near the end of the game by slipping in Gressel behind. Unfortunately, he just wasted it and kicked it right at the keeper, but that's beside the point. But yeah, I mean, he looked excited to be on the ball. It was nice to see him and Miguel combining as well because it felt like last season it was always he came on for Miguel in the preseason and then um, that one time in the league. So I would like to see a little bit more of them combining because I feel like they're both energetic players who can move the ball around well. And then Brandon didn't really see much out of him. Just he had one cross in that went right to the keeper. So I would like to see a little bit more from him just because we need him to do more. Because we don't really have much. I mean, Romario Williams scored a goal against Nashville in the last game, and so did Brandon. But we don't really know how they're going to do in an MLS competition. And so Joseph ends up getting hurt again, or if he's not really getting the job done, we need to know that we have another striker who can step in and at least convert some goals, at least do something to help us in the attack. And right now, I don't know about either of them. So I'd like to see hopefully a little bit more out of them. Obviously, we've got Minnesota on Wednesday, my birthday. And so I would like to see one of them get a chance, either Romario or Brandon, just to see what they've got against another MLS side in Minnesota. So yeah, I am looking forward to that one just because I feel like for one, they won't be as difficult to play against as Columbus. I think Columbus have a lot to prove. There's been a lot of talk about them and are they going to be able to make it as an MLS club? Feels like they're going to drop out for the longest time. And on top of that, they do have some new players in. So I do feel like this was a difficult test for us, especially with some of the players we were missing. Minnesota won't be as difficult to play against, but it'll still be an MLS team challenge because they did step up by the end of the season last season. So they are actually a team worth playing against, unlike when we faced them at the beginning of the season. And then, of course, we got Charleston, which is just, they're the team in the tournament that are a decent side, but nothing that it's almost like you're warming up for these MLS teams, and this is the type of team you want to play against. A team that is not necessarily easy to play against, but not a team that's going to run you to death. So, yeah, I want to see more out of us when we face Minnesota, but trying to get the positives out of this game and trying to look forward and hopefully work on some of these things because we do need to prepare. Season's right around the corner. So that's it for me. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts in this game? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Atlanta United reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next game. Peace out.